What if April was the most important month for your vegetable garden? Many gardeners think of April as simply another step in the growing season. In reality, the decisions you make this month can shape the success of your harvest for the rest of the year. As spring settles in, the soil begins to warm, daylight hours grow longer, and vegetables shift into a period of rapid growth. It's one of the busiest and most rewarding times to plant, but it's also when many gardeners make costly mistakes. Some rush to plant before conditions are ready, exposing young crops to setbacks. Others delay too long and lose valuable weeks of ideal growing weather. Many simply choose vegetables that aren't well suited to the season, missing an opportunity to maximize their garden's potential. Seasoned gardeners approach April differently. They recognize it as the perfect planting window for crops that establish quickly, grow vigorously, and produce generous harvests with relatively little effort. In today's video, we'll explore 10 vegetables that are excellent choices for planting this April. These reliable crops make the most of spring's favorable conditions and help turn any garden into a productive source of fresh food. 1. Corn. Although corn is often associated with sprawling farms and endless fields, it's actually an excellent crop for home gardens as well. Once you understand a few simple growing techniques, you'll discover that corn is surprisingly easy to cultivate and incredibly rewarding to harvest. April is often the perfect time to plant because the soil has started warming. Unlike cool season vegetables, corn thrives in warm conditions, and sowing it during this period allows seedlings to establish quickly before entering a phase of rapid growth. And once it begins growing, it doesn't slow down. Tiny shoots soon transform into tall, sturdy stalks that dramatically change the appearance of the garden. Week after week, the plants stretch higher, creating an impressive wall of green that instantly catches the eye. One of the most important things to remember is that corn performs best when grown together rather than individually. Because it depends on wind for pollination, planting a single row often leads to poorly filled ears. Growing corn in blocks or groups allows pollen to move freely between plants, producing fuller ears with evenly developed kernels. The formula is simple. Grow several plants close together. Allow nature to handle the pollination. The results will speak for themselves. Aside from that, corn is refreshingly uncomplicated. It doesn't require constant pruning or complicated maintenance. Once the plants are established, they mainly focus on growing. Give them plenty of sunshine, water during prolonged dry spells, then let them do what they naturally do best. Corn also makes efficient use of garden space. Rather than spreading across the ground, it grows upward, allowing gardeners to harvest a large amount of food from a relatively small area. Its towering stalks provide another benefit by creating partial shade for companion crops. Many gardeners take advantage of this by growing beans that climb the stalks while squash spreads across the soil below, a classic planting combination that maximizes productivity. Harvest time is especially rewarding. Unlike vegetables that are picked little by little throughout the season, corn delivers a moment of excitement all at once. Pulling back the green husk to reveal a perfectly developed ear packed with golden kernels is one of gardening's greatest pleasures. And the taste is unforgettable. Fresh-picked corn is noticeably sweeter, juicier, and richer in flavor than anything found in most grocery stores. It's one of those crops that truly demonstrates the value of growing your own food. Success with corn is surprisingly straightforward. Plant it when the soil is warm. Provide plenty of sunlight. Water when necessary. Then enjoy watching one of the garden's most impressive vegetables flourish. 2. Dill. If there were a prize for the most effortless herb to grow, dill would certainly deserve a place among the finalists. Reliable, productive, and wonderfully low maintenance, dill often feels as though it grows successfully with almost no assistance. April is one of the best times to sow dill because the cool temperatures of early spring create ideal conditions for germination. Before long, delicate seedlings appear, quickly developing the soft, feathery foliage that makes this herb so recognizable. One of dill's greatest advantages is its ability to reseed naturally. After flowering, the plant produces seeds that often fall directly onto the soil. The following spring, new seedlings emerge without any effort from the gardener, allowing one planting to become a self-renewing patch for years to come. Plant it once. Let nature handle the rest. Its graceful appearance is another reason gardeners love it. Slender stems topped with fine, airy leaves move gently in the breeze, bringing texture and lightness to vegetable beds. Although dill can grow surprisingly tall, it occupies very little space, making it easy to tuck between vegetables, flowers, or other herbs without crowding them. It performs equally well in raised beds, traditional gardens, containers, or even compact balcony planters. Its care requirements are wonderfully simple. It doesn't need especially rich soil. Frequent watering isn't necessary. Special fertilizers are rarely required. With sunshine, occasional moisture, and enough room to grow, dill usually flourishes on its own. Beyond its culinary uses, dill also benefits the entire garden. Its umbrella-shaped flowers attract bees, butterflies, and many beneficial insects that help pollinate crops and naturally reduce pest populations. In this way, dill becomes more than just an herb. It becomes an important contributor to a balanced garden ecosystem. Of course, it's also a favorite in the kitchen. Fresh dill adds wonderful flavor to fish, potatoes, soups, salads, vegetables, sauces, and homemade pickles. Having it growing just outside the door means fresh herbs are always within easy reach. Perhaps the most satisfying thing about dill is how naturally everything happens. Scatter a handful of seeds, watch them sprout, enjoy vigorous growth. Allow the plants to reseed. Soon enough, dill becomes a dependable part of the garden year after year. Easy to grow, highly productive, and beneficial in countless ways, dill is one of the smartest additions to any spring vegetable garden. 3. Potatoes. Growing potatoes has a way of changing how people think about gardening. More than simply producing food, they offer one of the most exciting and rewarding harvest experiences you'll find in the vegetable garden. April is an excellent time to plant because the soil has warmed enough to encourage strong early growth while still remaining cool enough for healthy tuber development. Starting now gives the plants plenty of time to establish before summer heat arrives. One of the most fascinating aspects of potatoes is how they begin their journey. Instead of sowing seeds, you plant pieces of potato containing stored energy and dormant buds capable of producing an entirely new plant. For several weeks, it appears that nothing is happening. The surface remains quiet while beneath the soil roots spread, shoots develop, and the plant quietly prepares for the months ahead. Then green stems suddenly break through the surface. Leaves expand rapidly, and vigorous top growth gives the impression that the plant's progress is happening above ground. But the most important work is taking place where you can't see it. As the foliage grows larger, new potatoes slowly form beneath the soil, hidden from sight. That's what makes growing potatoes so satisfying. You never actually watch the harvest develop. Instead, you trust the process. Then, when the time comes, the reward is unlike harvesting almost any other vegetable. Rather than picking fruit from branches or vines, you gently lift the plant and uncover clusters of potatoes buried beneath the soil. Every harvest feels like opening a hidden treasure chest, and more often than not, you'll find more potatoes than you expected. A single healthy plant can produce an impressive crop, making potatoes one of the most productive vegetables for the space they occupy. Since the harvest develops underground, the crop enjoys natural protection from many weather-related problems and certain common pests that affect above-ground vegetables. Another advantage is their flexibility. Grow potatoes in traditional garden beds. Plant them in raised beds. Use large containers, buckets, or grow bags. As long as the plants have enough depth for tubers to develop, they can thrive almost anywhere. Storage is another major benefit. Unlike many vegetables that need to be eaten immediately, properly cured potatoes can be stored for weeks or even months, providing fresh food long after the growing season has ended. They're nutritious, filling, and useful in countless recipes. Perhaps more than anything else, potatoes teach one important lesson. Not all progress is visible. Sometimes the greatest growth happens beneath the surface. Plant them, be patient, and when harvest time finally arrives, you'll discover just how much has been happening out of sight all along. 4. Carrots. Carrots are proof that some of the best crops in the garden don't need to grow quickly to be rewarding. Instead of demanding constant attention, they develop slowly and steadily beneath the soil, quietly preparing a harvest that's worth the wait. April is one of the best months to sow carrots because the cool spring soil encourages strong germination and healthy root development. Once the tiny seeds are planted, the growing process begins almost immediately, even though very little appears to be happening above the surface. Unlike many vegetables that focus on producing large leaves or rapid top growth, carrots invest most of their energy underground. While delicate green foliage gradually fills the bed, the real prize is forming where you can't see it. This underground growth habit comes with several advantages. Since the leafy tops occupy relatively little space, carrots fit easily between other vegetables, allowing gardeners to make excellent use of every square foot. Even when the garden appears full, carrots continue quietly expanding below the soil without competing for valuable room. Another reason they're so popular is their simplicity. They don't require heavy feeding. They don't demand complicated maintenance. They simply need loose, well-drained soil, occasional watering, and enough time to mature. Growing carrots is an exercise in patience, but that patience is richly rewarded. Harvest day always feels exciting. Grasp the leafy tops, pull gently, and watch a perfectly formed carrot emerge from the ground after weeks of hidden growth. Every root is unique, making each harvest feel like uncovering a small surprise. Carrots also stand out because of their excellent storage life. When harvested and stored correctly, they remain fresh for weeks or even months, providing homegrown vegetables long after the growing season has ended. That means you're not just planting for today's meals, you're creating a dependable food supply for the future. Carrots may not deliver instant results, but they reward gardeners with reliability, impressive harvests, and one of the most satisfying moments in the vegetable garden. 5. Lettuce. When it comes to quick and rewarding harvests, few vegetables can compete with lettuce. Planted in April, and spring provides exactly the environment it needs to thrive. Mild temperatures, gentle sunshine, and consistent soil moisture encourage rapid growth while helping the leaves stay tender, crisp, and full of flavor. One of lettuce's greatest advantages is the way it can be harvested. Unlike many vegetables that produce only one crop before they're finished, lettuce can continue supplying fresh leaves for weeks. Instead of removing the entire plant, simply harvest a few of the outer leaves whenever you need them. The center remains untouched and continues producing new growth, allowing the plant to regenerate again and again. With this simple harvesting method, a single planting becomes a continuous source of fresh greens. For an even longer harvest season, sow a new row every few weeks. By staggering your plantings, you'll enjoy a steady supply of lettuce throughout much of the spring and early summer. Before long, lettuce becomes more than just another vegetable. It becomes part of a reliable routine. Fresh salads whenever you want them. No waiting for one big harvest. No rush to use everything at once. Just healthy greens ready whenever you step into the garden. Lettuce is also incredibly adaptable. Its shallow root system allows it to grow successfully in raised beds, containers, window boxes, balcony planters, and even the smallest backyard gardens. It tolerates partial shade remarkably well, doesn't require much space, and is forgiving enough that even first-time gardeners usually achieve excellent results. Another reason people love growing lettuce is how quickly it transforms empty beds. Tiny seedlings soon develop into lush clusters of vibrant green leaves, giving the garden a healthy, productive appearance within a short time. Perhaps the biggest benefit is how it changes your gardening experience. Instead of waiting weeks for harvest, you're interacting with your plants almost every day. Step outside. Pick a handful of fresh leaves, take them straight to the kitchen. Simple, fresh, and incredibly satisfying. With very little maintenance and continuous production, lettuce is one of the easiest ways to enjoy fresh food throughout the spring season. 6. Spinach. Spinach may not be the flashiest vegetable in the garden, but it's one of the most dependable. It doesn't produce colorful fruit or towering plants that steal the spotlight. Instead, it quietly delivers consistent harvests, making it a favorite among gardeners who value reliability. April is the perfect time to grow spinach. Cool temperatures, moist soil, and gentle spring weather create the ideal conditions for rapid, healthy growth. While many warm season vegetables are only beginning to establish themselves, spinach is already producing lush foliage and making full use of the season. Once the seeds sprout, growth is surprisingly fast. Within a short time, rich green leaves spread across the garden bed, creating a dense, healthy crop that's ready for repeated harvesting. One of spinach's greatest strengths is that you don't have to harvest the entire plant at once. Simply remove the larger outer leaves whenever you need them, leaving the center untouched. New leaves quickly replace the ones you've picked, providing a continuous harvest over an extended period. This simple approach transforms spinach into an ongoing source of fresh greens rather than a one-time crop. Fresh leaves are always available, the plants continue growing, and harvesting becomes a regular part of your gardening routine. Another reason spinach is so easy to grow is its modest care requirements. It doesn't need frequent fertilizing, it doesn't require complicated maintenance, and it performs beautifully with little more than consistent moisture, moderate sunlight, and enough room to develop. Its fast maturity offers another important advantage. Since spinach finishes much of its growth before the intense heat of summer arrives, it frees valuable garden space for heat-loving vegetables later in the season. This makes it an excellent crop for gardeners who want to maximize productivity throughout the year. The nutritional benefits are equally impressive. Spinach is loaded with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and other valuable nutrients, making it one of the healthiest leafy vegetables you can grow at home. Although it rarely becomes the center of attention, spinach consistently proves its worth. Season after season, it grows reliably, produces generous harvests, and asks for very little in return. Sometimes the most dependable plants are also the most valuable, and spinach is a perfect example. 7. Peas are one of the first vegetables to truly come alive in spring. While many crops wait for warmer weather, peas flourish in the cool temperatures, moist soil, and fresh spring air that April provides. Planting them now gives them the perfect opportunity to establish quickly and produce an abundant harvest before summer heat arrives. One of the most enjoyable things about growing peas is watching them climb. Instead of spreading across the ground, these energetic plants naturally grow upward. Give them a trellis, netting, bamboo stakes, a fence, or even a few strings, and they'll immediately begin reaching for support. Tiny curling tendrils wrap around nearby structures, gently pulling the vines higher with each passing day. It's amazing how quickly they transform a simple support into a lush green wall filled with life. Growing vertically is one of peas' greatest advantages. They require very little ground space while making excellent use of fences, arches, and garden supports. This makes them an outstanding choice for small gardens, where every inch counts. As the weeks go by, their growth accelerates. Delicate vines become stronger, bright blossoms begin to appear, and before long those flowers develop into crisp green pods ready to harvest. Fresh peas picked straight from the vine have a sweetness that's difficult to match. Their tender texture and rich flavor make them irresistible, and many gardeners end up snacking on them long before they make it back to the kitchen. Peas also improve the garden itself. As members of the legume family, they work together with beneficial soil bacteria that capture nitrogen from the atmosphere and naturally enrich the soil. This helps nourish future crops long after the peas have finished growing. In other words, peas provide two valuable harvests: fresh vegetables for your table and healthier soil for your garden. They're also wonderfully easy to grow. They rarely need heavy fertilizing, demand very little maintenance, and once the vines are happily climbing, they require surprisingly little attention. Productive, space-saving, and beneficial in more ways than one, peas are one of the smartest vegetables you can plant in April. 8. Green onions. Green onions may be one of the easiest vegetables to grow, but they're also among the most practical. With very little effort, they provide a steady supply of fresh harvests throughout the growing season. April offers nearly perfect conditions for getting them started. Cool spring temperatures, increasing sunshine, and consistent moisture encourage fast, healthy growth almost from the moment they're planted. One reason gardeners love green onions is their incredible simplicity. You can grow them from seed, or you can regrow them from the white root ends of store-bought onions that would normally be thrown away. Simply place the roots in water or soil, and within just a few days, fresh green shoots begin appearing. It's one of the quickest and most satisfying gardening projects for beginners and experienced growers alike. Even better, the harvest doesn't end after the first cutting. Trim the green tops, leave the roots untouched. Before long, new leaves begin growing again. This cycle repeats over and over, giving you a continuous supply of fresh onions for weeks or even months. Green onions are also excellent space savers. Their slender, upright growth means they fit almost anywhere without competing heavily with neighboring vegetables. They grow beautifully in raised beds, traditional gardens, containers, window boxes, and even sunny kitchen windows. Maintenance is almost effortless. No staking, no pruning, no complicated care routines. A sunny location and occasional watering are usually all they need. They're also naturally resilient, resisting many common pests and recovering quickly from minor setbacks. Perhaps their biggest advantage is their usefulness in the kitchen. Fresh green onions instantly add flavor to soups, salads, omelets, sandwiches, stir-fries, baked potatoes, and countless other recipes. Instead of buying bunches from the grocery store every week, you simply step outside and harvest exactly what you need. Fresh, convenient, always growing. Once people discover how simple green onions are to grow, they rarely stop planting them. Grow them once, harvest often, and enjoy a never-ending supply of fresh greens. 9. Cabbage is one of those vegetables that rewards patience with an impressive harvest. At first, it doesn't attract much attention. A young cabbage plant looks like nothing more than a small rosette of green leaves resting close to the ground. But beneath that modest appearance, something remarkable is happening. April is an excellent time to plant cabbage because cool spring weather encourages steady growth and allows the plant to develop a strong root system before summer temperatures begin to rise. Its development follows a fascinating pattern. The outer leaves spread outward, collecting sunlight and fueling the plant's growth. Gradually, the center begins drawing inward. Over time, those loose leaves tighten into a firm, compact head that becomes larger and heavier with every passing week. Watching that transformation is one of the most satisfying parts of growing cabbage. Unlike leafy vegetables that provide repeated small harvests, cabbage builds toward one substantial reward. One plant, one solid head, a harvest packed with nutrition and countless culinary possibilities. Another reason gardeners appreciate cabbage is its reliability. It doesn't require complicated growing techniques. It doesn't demand constant maintenance. Given reasonable care, it simply continues developing steadily until harvest. Once mature, cabbage becomes one of the most versatile vegetables in the kitchen. It can be sliced into fresh salads, added to soups, stir-fried, roasted, stuffed, or fermented into sauerkraut and other preserved foods. A single head often provides enough ingredients for several meals. Dependable, productive, and wonderfully practical, cabbage proves that some of the most valuable vegetables quietly do their job without ever asking for attention. 10. Beets. Beets are one of the most rewarding vegetables in the garden because every plant provides 2 different harvests instead of just one. Although they're usually thought of as a root crop, both the leafy tops and the colorful roots are delicious, nutritious, and worth growing. April creates ideal growing conditions. Cool temperatures, moist spring soil, and comfortable weather help young plants establish quickly and develop vigorous growth from the very beginning. One of the most interesting things about beets is the way they grow. Above the soil, lush green leaves emerge first, highlighted by striking crimson stems and veins that add beauty to the vegetable garden. These tender greens can be harvested early and cooked much like spinach or Swiss chard. Meanwhile, beneath the surface, the real surprise is slowly taking shape. Hidden underground, the swollen root gradually increases in size, storing nutrients while developing its deep color, earthy sweetness, and rich flavor. Part of the excitement comes from knowing that while you watch healthy leaves above ground, something equally important is quietly growing below. Beets are also wonderfully forgiving. They don't need perfect soil. They rarely require heavy fertilizing, and they tolerate small growing mistakes far better than many vegetables. With loose soil, moderate watering, and a little patience, they'll continue growing steadily throughout the season. Their compact size makes them easy to fit into almost any planting plan. They grow beautifully in traditional rows, raised beds, containers, and mixed vegetable gardens without taking up excessive space. Harvesting is simple but incredibly satisfying. Loosen the soil. Grip the leafy tops. Pull gently. Out comes a smooth, richly colored beet that has been quietly developing beneath your feet. Both the roots and leaves are packed with vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and other valuable nutrients, meaning very little of the plant goes to waste. The roots can be roasted, boiled, pickled, or stored for months, while the greens provide fresh harvests throughout the season. Like many cool season vegetables, beets also fit perfectly into a productive gardening schedule. They establish early, mature efficiently, and often leave space available for warm season crops later in the year. They don't demand constant attention or dramatic care. They simply grow steadily, produce dependable harvests, and deliver far more value than their modest appearance might suggest.